We're continuing with Ladino. Before we're going to start, or before we continue, just wanted to remind you about any questions that you have. You can reach us at rabbigaon@gmail.com. If you want to check us out on our website, Yeshiva.Etzion.com. No, Yeshiva Etzion. No, the other one, I'm sorry. rabbigaon@gmail. And then the other one is at Yeshiva.Etzion.com. If you want to help us out with a donation, you can go to the PayPal account. Help us over there tremendously. Appreciate it. And it's just, we would love to hear from you. So let's go back to Ladino. It says it's the Jewish language, Jewish Spanish dialect that was spoken in the areas of where the Jews from Spain had settled in. I'm not going to do a recap. If you want to watch stuff from number one. Now, about the characters of this language, it's very interesting to know that. In Ladino, they did a great usage of words in Hebrew because of the presence of that language in daily life. Different expressions also penetrated inside of it, especially in Turkish or in Greek or some even Italian, sometimes even French words. Depends of where they came from, and because of the connections of the communities with one another, those expressions and the usage of foreign languages. Let's say, for example, you would find some Italian words in Ladino that they spoke in Turkey because of the connections of the community. So it integrated, was well used by others. The vocabulary of the Ladino also contains words that come from ancient Spanish, and it's not used today. So if you want to do some kind of an archaeological excavation of the language of ancient Spanish, you can actually go and look at Ladino. Very famous cases of messengers of the... Oh, by the way, I have to tell you this. I really... Yesterday we were talking about how Spain should give an apology to the Jews and so on and so forth, right? So I went home, I opened the computer, and then I'm looking at an Israeli newspaper, and I said, oh my goodness, the King of Spain issued an apology to the Jews altogether for the expulsion from Spain, and he says, we missed the Jews and so on and so forth, and now Jews can get, Jews from Spain can get a passport that could get a Spanish passport as well. I said, oh my goodness, I looked at the time. It was more or less the time that we were talking about in Yeshiva. He issued an apology. So, coincidence, whatever it is. It was really weird. I sent it to Jonathan. It was really amazing. So there's no way for me to know. We were here in Yeshiva. He issued it more or less around the same time. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning, our time. Something of that sort over there. It was fascinating to see that. But throughout the years, they send messengers to try to persuade the Jews to come back to Spain, and the Jews did not want to do that. However, some of the reports were quite, the reporters or the people who did that were quite amazed how over a period of, let's say, 200 years after the expulsions, Jews maintained their Spanish and their rituals as they were in Spain, and people were just astonished, even though the Spanish at the time had already shifted, but still they maintained that ancient Spanish and ancient Spanish dialect. And those expressions are not going to be found in modern Spanish. They were found in ancient Spanish. Also, it had quite influence from other things. For example, if you're talking about Turkish, the addition of the word of the sound G would refer to a person who is a professional. So, for example, boya is paint in Spanish. Boyaji will be a painter, right? Or they would say, let's say, you would use any kind of an expression that you would use for a person, for a professional. You would add, they would take the Spanish word, right, and the word G, because that's how the Turks would use that. So an expression, for example, And it was not always used, at the beginning, it was not always used as a favorite thing. It was just like a, like a second class type of a thing. But later on it became, the common thing to use was when you take the sadakero is a person who lives from tzedakah, shnor, right? So tzedakah, sedaka in Spanish, because they can't say the tzid, it says sadakero, ro means a person who collects tzedakah. And later on, right, they would use the word sadakaji, a person who collects tzedakah. Also, the nicknames, right? So the word, let's say, in Ashkenazi, in the Ashkenazi word, they will use the word, instead of, let's say, Moshe, right? They will say Moshe, instead of Moshe, they will say Moishale, Yankale, right? For the Sfaradim, in Ladino, it won't be like this. Usually, Moshe is the expression, usually they use the word Moshon. But for a little kid, they'll say Moshiko, Avramiko, right? Yakoviko. Ko means little. So they had their own unique expression as well. But many times, they will call somebody Avramiko. Avramiko, little Avraham, right? So when I was a little kid, they used to call me Avramiko. Now I'm a big kid, they don't call me like this anymore. Even though my aunt still calls me like that, but in Ladino, which is very interesting, in Ladino they try not to and prevent themselves from using any words that comes from Spanish that have a Christian association to it. They would not use that. For example, the word God in Spanish is Dios, D-I-A-S, Dios. And like el plural, right? Or in Ladino, it will be el Dio. They don't say Dios grande, el Dio grande. Because the word Dios means plural. And in Judaism, we cannot have plural gods, so we use el Dio. E-L-D-I-O, not el Dios. El Dios grande is a Castilian, non-Jewish way to use things. El Dio grande, right? That's a Ladino way to use it because they try to prevent themselves from using it. So, for example, the word Sunday in Spanish it will be Domingo. Domingo. In Ladino it will be Al-Hat, El Echat, the first day. Could be from Arabic, could be from Hebrew. Al-Hat is the first day. And we spoke about it yesterday. They used to speak different in Spain, and every region used to speak different, their own dialect. However, in Ladino, the preservation of the word Zayin or Shin, which in Spanish is pronounced as a het or het. Like, for example, the word a woman, right? How do you say a woman in Spanish? Mujer, 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 right? Like Placido Domingo, mujer. In Ladino, it'll be mujer, mujer. Which is closer in a way to Italian and Latin many times. That's why people who speak Ladino can branch themselves easier to speak other languages like French, Portuguese, Spanish, regular Spanish without a doubt, Italian and Latin. Many times I can understand Italians who speak, if they speak slow enough, I can understand because the words are similar and similar in sounds, closer pronunciation to that, because it's an ancient, older way to actually pronounce it. Or, for example, we said yesterday the word son, right? How do you say my son in Spanish, in Castilian, in non-Ladino? How do you say it? Come on, you know it. Mi hijo, my son. In Ladino, it will be mi hijo. And in Ladino of the Greeks will be mi fijo. Fijo, like Portuguese. So you see how the influence comes. Mi hijo, mi hijo. Eyes. How do you say eyes? Qué bonitos ojos tienes. Ojos, right? You know this song, Malagueña? You don't know Malagueña? We have to do re-education to you later. We have to take out the Lubavitch in you and to put some real stuff in you. Que bonitos ojos tienes. How beautiful eyes you have. Ojos, ojos. Ojos, ojos, ojos. The certain words, like for example, green. How do you say green? Do you know Spanish or what? Does your mother know you don't know Spanish? How do you say green? Verde. Verde. Right? How do you say it in Ladino? Vedre. Change the order. Vedre, verde, and so on and so forth. Many examples to that. Okay? The word yellow, amarillo versus amarillo. Red. How do you say red? Rojo. Yeah. Yeah. Rojo. How do you say red in Spanish, in Ladino? No. No. There's a big, I'll give you a hint. There's a big river named after that. Colorado. Colorado means red. The Red River, Colorado. Rojo versus Colorado. How do you say, for example, and this is very interesting, because until I came to America, I actually was exposed to Castilian rather than Ladino. It was very strange for me. Because we say, for example, how do you say black in Spanish? Spanish. Negro. Negro. Like negro. But in our Spanish, negro is the equivalent in Ladino. Negro is the equivalent of malo, which is bad. Es muy negro persona. This person is really bad. The word negro means bad. Black, how do we say black? We say preto. Preto. Preto is black. Negro is bad. In Castilian, negro means black. So you need to adjust all that. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. Just a little bit more on that. Ladino was written for many years in Rashi's script all the time. And, whether it was religious articles or whether it was secular thing, it was always written in that. Sometimes it was written in regular script like we have, but most of the time it was written in Rashi's script. Later on, around the mid-19th century, when, especially in Turkey and overall the thing in Europe, but mostly in Turkey because of the advancement in printing and so on and so forth, they switched from Rashi's script to Latin. Today, most of the Ladino is written in Latin. There is a big publication in Israel. It's called Aki Yerushalayim. Aki means here Jerusalem. It's all printed in Latin letters. Where if you look at other stuff beforehand, it was many times in Sidurim, like Sinai Sidurim over there, you will find the old Sidurim, you'll find actually words in Ladino. Sometimes it will be in Rashi script, sometimes it will be in regular script as well of that. The same thing depends on the country that you're at. They would pronounce different sounds or write different sounds in different manner. For example, the word sh, right? In French, if it's French-oriented places that speak Ladino, they will spell it with a CH. Where if there will be more English, they will do it as SH. Or in Turkey, they will do it with an S with a little apostrophe on the bottom. So many times the Ladino was written what we call in Hebrew and Rabbinical, it's called Chatzi Kolmus. Chatzi Kolmus refers to the way in which they used to fix the pen in which they used to write with, the quill they used to write. It wasn't a quill. They usually used to take it from a bamboo. The quill that they used to write was in the Ashkenazi era was more with a feather. By the Sfaradim was more with a reed that they used to make it. So because of the difference between making the reed or making a feather, making a quill with the feather or with a reed, so the print was different. That's where Rashi came from. So they call it Chatzi Kolmus, also Yatiro, right? What was the Spanish Jews, the Sephardic Jews used to use for writing until maybe 50, 60 years ago. Everybody used that. My grandfather used to write like this. I knew a guy whose name was Rabbi Avitan Alav Shalom, very fine man. When he used to write in Hebrew, he used to write Bechatzi Kolmus. He used to have those pens, the pencils, the contractor pencils, they are flat. So he used to write Bechatzi, it's called Ktav Chatzi Kolmus. That's how they used to write. This is for today. Tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, next time we'll continue further on. We'll try to wrap this up. Then we'll move to other Jewish communities. Have a great day.